welcome back to my channel, and today we have another part of my collection. It was suggested to me on my first one that I do eyeshadow palette, so that is what we are going to be tackling today. As always, please don't forget to like and subscribe and tap that notification bell to be notified of more videos. And let's just get into the eyeshadow palettes because it's going to be a lot and a long one. So grab yourself a drink, a snack, whatever, and sit down. Now this is probably going to have to be made into two parts because I have so many. I am going to do it by brand, so I do have it sectioned off by that, but let's just get right into it. I'm not going to do any swatches. If you guys want to see any reviews, tutorials, get readies with me, or swatches, whatever, any of these palettes, let me know. And other than that, let's just dive right in. The first section that I have to talk about is Kat Von D, which is one of, if not my favorite eyeshadow brand. So I have her star-studded, I think this is just the star-studded shadow book. This was her holiday from 3 years ago. I find that this palette is actually just really kind of random. You have a bunch of neutrals and then these just like random pops of color, but I do love this and the quality is really good. All of her shadows are just top notch, including her holiday. Speaking of holiday, I have the Kat Von D Mi Vida Loca, which is one of, if not my favorite palette of all time. This palette is just phenomenal. It has everything you could possibly need. I love how it has the row of neutrals and then all the crazy colors. This is just an amazingly and well thought out palette. I love it. I don't use it nearly as much as I used to because it would cost an arm, a leg, and my unborn child to pay for this, but I absolutely love it. Then for most recent holiday, we have the Kat Von D Metal Matte. This is another amazing palette. I love how her holiday palettes just keep getting bigger and bigger. I mean, I am so ready for the Sinner and Saint palette. It's going to be huge, and I'm definitely picking that up. But this is another extremely well thought out. You get this matte here and then her Metal Crush shadows up here. I think this palette has so much going for it, and honestly, if you had this and the Mi Vida Loca palette, you wouldn't need any other palette in your collection. This is just amazing. Her holiday palettes are the bomb. Then I have my Kat Von D Pastel Goth palette, which is one of my favorite of her palettes. It is a little, but this guy packs a big punch. I absolutely love the colors in here, and they're absolutely stunning. This is an all matte palette, and it is amazing. Then a palette of hers that is discontinued is the Monarch palette. This is another one that I think is just phenomenal. It has all those beautiful like orangey, burnt, autumny, whatever shades. Come the fall, I'm going to be going hard on this palette. The quality of her shades are just phenomenal, and I'm actually really sad that she discontinued this, and I think she also discontinued this one. This is the Chrysalis, sort of the sister palette to the Monarch palette. Just beautiful blues and purples, very ethereal. I love this one as well. I mean, all her palettes I love. There is not a Kat Von D palette that I do not love. But this one is just absolutely stunning as well, and I think it's discontinued. And I'm not sure about her, if her Interstellar palette is discontinued. If she discontinued all these palettes, girl need to be pushing out some more permanent palettes. This one was my first favorite from Kat Von D. I think it was the first Kat Von D palette I ever had. I am very close to hitting pan on this black. Her black is the best, the most pigmented, the smoothest black eyeshadow you will ever try. So I definitely recommend picking up any of her palettes that have a black eyeshadow in it. Then we have the Holy Grail Shade and Light palette. I go hard for this. Everything about this palette is just amazing. As someone who cosplays and needs to create dimension in my eyes for those looks, this palette has everything. I can also create very good vampire looks, very good undead looks. I can also do natural and glam. This palette just has everything, and it really does it for me. And then newest to my collection is the Kat Von D Shade and Light Glimmer palette. I love the packaging on this. Oh my goodness. And the palette inside is beautiful. I literally cannot wait to travel with just these two and have everything I need and be creating some bomb looks. This is absolutely stunning. I love the fact that you get a bunch of different finishes. I am living for this shade. The black is amazing. These ones are phenomenal. It is just a great one from Kat Von D. I love all her shadows. Next up is Tarte. I don't have a huge amount from them because Tarte really isn't a brand with their eyeshadow that really pulls me in, but I have the Tartelette in Bloom. Sorry, just the Tartelette Reflective. This palette is really beautiful. I think this is a phenomenal beginner's palette if you don't have shiny. If you don't have a lot of makeup and want something very easy for every day, I would recommend this. I do like the quality on this palette. I'm not sure which I like better, the original Tartelette or the Tartelette in Bloom here. Both of the colors are really beautiful and very easy to use, so I think they're both good. They smell amazing, and I love the fact that this one does have the shimmers. But they're both very versatile and beautiful and easy to use, so I would recommend both of these palettes if you were looking for something just simple, everyday, throw in your eyes. Then a palette by Tarte I would not recommend is their Make Believe in Yourself. This was for spring, summer. I hate this palette so stinking much. It looks beautiful and stunning, and it performs like crap, and I just regret spending any money on this. Another palette that I am kind of on the fence about, this is the Tarte Graveyard Girl Swamp Queen, which was in collaboration with Bunny here on YouTube. I do love the shades. The highlighter is crazy chunky, but the shades are very beautiful. This is a palette that I feel like if you missed on, you're not missing out on a lot of things to do with the shadows, but if you supported Bunny and you love her, then this is amazing, but it's just not something that I really reach for, though I do like having it in my collection. Then currently my favorite Tarte palette of all time right now, this is the Tartist Pro. When this launched, oh my goodness, it's like I'm putting him in timeout. When this palette launched, I absolutely had to have it. I love the red and mauve tones. The fact that you get all these mattes and then also these amazing shimmers makes this palette so stinking versatile. And I also love the fact that it has these like quad sections already built up for you to just simply do an eye. Obviously we can mix and match because we can all do whatever the heck we want with makeup, but the fact that it is such a user-friendly palette really makes me happy about that, and I think it is probably currently the best Tarte palette on the market. Time for Too Faced. I definitely have a crap ton of Too Faced, but let's start off. I have the original chocolate bar. I don't know if this is like the thicker packaging because it's slimmer, but it doesn't have the names written on it. So I'm like, what? Is this a weird in-between palette? I really enjoy this palette. I feel like the chocolate bars are staples in any collector's edition. I don't necessarily think you need all of them unless you're crazy makeup hoarder like me, but I really love this palette. That pink is beautiful. I live for this like burgundy shade right here. Just absolutely stunning. Smells amazing. And then we have the Semi-Sweet, which I think I'm drawn to a little bit more because I think the shades are a bit richer. I think the shades are a bit richer and just more pigmented and intense, and just I love peanut butter, blueberry swirl, nougat, truffled, mousse, caramel bonbon, butter pecan. They're just all really good. Love this one. Continuing in the chocolate bar family, we have the chocolate bonbons, which is tied for my least reach Too Faced palette. I absolutely love Earl Grey, Cotton Candy, Totally Fetch, Cafe au Lait, and Dark Truffle. I do like sprinkles as well. But on a whole, this one just isn't one that I find that I reach for. I'll pull it out for like a specific shade because I love these pinks and that blue. But to create a look by itself, I just really don't reach for this one as much. I do love it. And then my favorite is the Too Faced Sweet Peach palette. You guys all know my feelings on this palette, and they are 100% positive. This palette is just perfection to me. There is not a shade in here that I don't use. Summer Yum, Puree, Caramel, I look at all of the shadows, even by them singly. I was just like, they're just so beautiful. I love this stinking palette so much, and I can't wait for all of the new peach crap that's coming out. I have a bunch of the little tins here. This is the Boudoir Eyes one. This one I really like using on other people when I do their makeup because it's a very simple and beautiful palette. It just creates some very nice, soft, and delicate looks. And then I have the Rock and Roll palette, which I must admit, the reason I bought this is because one of my close friends, Elizabeth, she and I are like really close, but we're totally different. And they had this palette and the Country palette. And I bought the Rock and Roll one for myself. It has these nice, crazy, edgy colors. And then I bought the Country one for her because it was much more her speed. And then obviously I got one for myself because I'm a addict. But I do enjoy both of these. I find that a lot of the 9pan palettes by Too Faced are just really good quality, except for that peanut butter and honey debacle. Then we have the Sugar Pop one, which is probably my second favorite out of all of these 9pan palettes, just because it has all of these fun pop shades, and the palette just really works well together to create a really fun, colorful look without being too in your face. Then we have the Too Faced Cat Eye, which I think is really unique. You have these shades over here that you can use wet or dry as eyeliners, which are really neat. I think that these shades are all a little too similar, but that's just me. Because I do know that with the 9pan palettes, basically each row of 3 is an eye look. Not that, you know, I roll that way, but it's nice to know. Then I have the Natural Matte, which is another one that I reach for a crap ton. I love the shades on here. I think it is one of the best matte palettes on the market because you get such a great selection in this little teeny tiny tin. I think it's phenomenal. And then my second favorite, I think, is the Peanut Butter and Jelly palette. I love all the shades in here. This one, just the whole ding dang thing. This makes a poppin' setting shade. I'll actually usually just set my whole eye with that. This is just so good and so great. I think after this palette is really where Too Faced kind of started to go downhill. And then we have this big wonking disappointment, the Natural Love palette by Too Faced, which was freaking limited edition, but it's still available. And I'm like, that just aggravates me because I went through everything to get this palette. This was nowhere near as disappointing as the Make Believe in Yourself by Tarte because I can make this work. But the overall quality is a far cry from the 9pan palettes or the chocolate bars, and that is why it is so disappointing. If you missed out on this, I don't recommend picking it up because it just is a little bit frustrating to work with. Then Anastasia Beverly Hills. I do not have as many Anastasia palettes as I would like, but hey, woohoo. The first is the Self-Made palette. This palette is absolutely gorgeous. It is just so rich and enticing and just so, it is glorious. I love Blossom, Isla, this deep purple, pink champagne, obviously, just the whole thing is just beautiful. I find with Anastasia palettes, I am always attracted to just the whole stinking palette rather than being like, oh, there's a couple shades I won't use. I will always use them. And then we have the World Traveler palette, which is again deep and luscious and decadent. I just love all of these shadows. They are very evocative of the World Traveler name because you look at this and you think of other places and their rich decadent cultures. It's just so beautiful. Then I have the Artist palette, which is honestly probably my least used palette because compared to the others, this one isn't very cohesive. Like, you can create a look, but it doesn't all go together as well. It has a lot of standout shades like Fresh, Unicorn, Orange You Fancy, Punch Fuchsia, Anaconda, Blue Velvet, and then just some more neutral shades. It just doesn't flow as well as the other palettes in my opinion. And then obviously the beloved Modern Renaissance, one of my top 5 favorite palettes. You guys know how I feel about this palette. It is absolutely amazing. There is not a shade in here that I do not absolutely love. But obviously my favorites are going to be Raw Sienna, Burnt Orange, Red Ochre, Venetian Red, Love Letter, Real Gar, Cypress Umber, just all of them. Just really, this palette just gets me in a way that most palettes don't. It is just amazing. And then trailing on the Modern Renaissance is the Subculture, which is getting a lot of heat on YouTube. There goes the brush. I actually just watched Wayne Goss's video on this where he talks about it being, this formula being like literally a pressed pigment, and that's why it's so pigmented and why it's so fallout, because literally they're just taking the barest part of the pigment and pressing it rather than adding a bunch of other stuff to it. But I really love the colors of this palette. I think it is absolutely stunning. It's that beautiful grungy 70s, 90s, whatever that is just absolutely gorgeous. The only shade that was kind of disappointing to me is this Electric and a little bit of the Cube. If you wet your brush, Cube does work a lot better, and so does Electric. Adorn is absolutely beautiful. I love New Wave and Edge. Axis is beautiful. All Star, Dawn. I mean, it is a gorgeous palette. I did hear that they are going to be repressing these harder, so we'll see how that looks, but I do like this palette. It does have a lot of fallout, but the colors are absolutely stunning. Next up, we have Urban Decay, which is another of my favorite eyeshadow brand. We'll start off with something basic. This is the Urban Decay Original Basics palette. I use this as sort of just like an all-in-one travel palette. I use a lot of these shades for my brows. They're very good for setting and highlighting, and other than that, I really don't use it because I have plenty of other basic palettes. Then I have my Naked Ultimate Basics, which I definitely use a lot more. These shades in here are absolutely beautiful. I adore this gray right here, and it's really hard to find a good matte gray in my opinion. These shades here, I love the rosy tones. I feel like they took just a lot of wonderful color schemes from the Naked palettes and included it in here, so I definitely recommend this one. Urban Decay plus Gwen Stefani. When this came out, oh my goodness, I went hard for this. I bought one for my friend JT because he loves Gwen Stefani. The shades are nothing spectacular, and a lot of the shades that I would want to love are lacking in pigmentation, but the palette is beautiful, and I will probably keep it forever because the sentimental value is just there. Then we have the Moondust palette, which I really enjoy. I was originally not going to get this. It was in a Kimberly Clark. I don't think it was in an anti-haul, but she talked crap about it because, I mean, if you're looking for a full pigmented shadow, this is not what you're going to get. You're going to have to work with a glitter glue, with a base, but I do like the end result, and I feel like this is a good palette for someone who wants to, like, play and start getting into color because you're not getting a crazy opaque color like you would if you bought them the Electric palette. And speak of the devil, here's my electric palette. I love this thing so much. I use it all the dang time, and I live for this silver. I live for the whole thing. I will always have this palette. It is phenomenal, and it is the first high-end purchase I ever made. The first thing I ever bought at Sephora was this palette. So there's sentimental value as well as it's just a bomb palette. Another palette that has a lot of sentimental value to me is this Alice Through the Looking Glass palette. This was my birthday last year. They were having a event and I told my mom I wanted to go with her and for us to have just a mother-daughter time. And we did, and it was just so fun, and I love my mom so much. And it is a very beautiful palette. It isn't necessarily very user-friendly in the packaging department, but it has some amazing and unique colors. I absolutely love this Metamorphosis shade right here. Bandersnatch, Salesian Garum, Heads Will Roll, Hatter, Paradox, Cake. It's just absolutely stunning and very beautiful. I love it, and I'm so happy my mom was willing to buy me that crap. Then we have some Vice palettes. Vice palettes are just something that I buy a lot. This is the Vice LTD palette. Very beautiful. Not my favorite, but it's still really nice. I love the packaging. And then we have the Vice LTD Reloaded palette, which this one is definitely much more my speed in the color spectrum. I do love these greens and purples. That gold shade is to die for. And then we have like my two favorite Vice palettes, which I think this is the third one here. This one I used hard when I first got it. These red shades, this row, just every stinking shade I used so much. I used it on myself, on my friend when we would go out. This one just really killed it for me. And then I think the Vice 4, and this is another one that I went to an Urban Decay event with the Vice 3, and this one I went to an event with my friend and we had our makeup done by the Urban Decay makeup artist, and it's just some great memories, and I love this palette. It has these three shades, 1, 2, 3, are absolutely stunning. I love this one as well. It is just a very beautiful palette. I love the fact that you have all the mattes right here. I think this is a much more thought out one, and the packaging is amazing. Then we have the Naked palettes. Oh my goodness. Naked Smoky, packaging on point. I use this palette a lot when I'm doing my gothic or vampire looks. I think it is great for that. I love the packaging. But if you are not either a cool tone lover or a smoky lover, I don't recommend this at all. Naked 2, my least favorite of the Naked palettes, although I do like it on other people. I will use this a lot, like I said, on other people because it creates a beautiful, just soft look. Then Naked 3, my second favorite Naked palette. Just those beautiful dead rosy tones that make you look kind of sick. I live for it. I love it. Naked 1, my third favorite. These colors are just so rich and beautiful and decadent and chocolatey and just, I love this palette so much. But my first favorite or second favorite or whatever has to go to the new Naked, to the Naked Heat. I live for these beautiful burnt red orange shades. The packaging is sleek and sexy and just beautiful. I actually think of the Lion King when I see that. Is that just me? But I love this palette so much. I highly recommend, if you are drawn to these shades, to get this palette because I think the quality is just as good as the other Naked palettes, and I do like the quality of Urban Decay shadows. Well guys, there is the first part of my eyeshadow palette. The second part I think is going to be a bit shorter. We definitely did get through the meat of my collection in this, but there is definitely going to be a part 2, so stay tuned for that. Thank you guys so much for watching. I love you, and as always, keep it real. Mwah!